Hello, everybody. This is Alex, and this is the recap for day number 5. And day number 5 was one that contained a lot of action, a lot of interesting moments, but ultimately it's one that closed in disappointment and quite a bit of frustration, I must say. So I finished the day with negative $51.96 of P&L, which is just under 2% in the red ROE. And the reason it's so frustrating is because I feel like I really deserve to have a green day today. I feel like I did enough good things today that I should have closed green with a range of maybe like 20 to 120 bucks. And instead of that, I suffered kind of a roller coaster because every trade of the day, even though my size was small on all my trades, every trade of the day changed the color of my P&L from red to green or from green to red. And at the end of the day, I was caught in a spot where I could have closed with a very small winner, where I didn't feel really good about myself. And I took one more trade, and that one more trade led to me getting caught in a brutal rug pull situation where I lost way more than I thought I was, risking. And I got video of that, so I'll be showing you that later in the recap. And even though I am going to chop that video up to make it fit in this recap, I did get the whole thing recorded. So I will be posting that separately, either with or without, or maybe both, commentary without commentary, as a separate video. So you can go check that out in full length if you're not satisfied with whatever I end up showing in this. So as we switch over to my trade log here, I've got the 5 trades from today highlighted. I'll point out over on the right, you can see that my position size, like I said, was very small today throughout the entire day. And I have to say, looking at these 5 trades now, it's tough to even know what to talk about. There's so many topics today. There's so many events that happen. For instance, this one, I look at this and I see, oh yeah, that's the one where I stopped out too early. The mistake that I made early in the day that booked a loser for a reason that I wasn't happy with. It was something I immediately regretted. And right away, I got right back in and caught this trade. And that was a great winner. And I was super happy with that. And even though I had really big plans on this trade, I recognized perfectly that the top of the move had happened or was about to happen, and I ended up getting out 3 cents above or below the top. And so I was really happy with that. And I follow it up with losing more than $1 per share, more than 12%, which is a huge loss on a 50 share position and killing my momentum. And I switch stocks at this point. I change to ADTX and get involved there, and I get set up on a home run spot. I was in a spot where I'm supposed to book a home run, and I sold the first half up, close to $1, and was ready to hold the second half into a halt and possibly even add to it. And that I didn't get that result. It ended up reversing, and I stopped out of the rest more or less break even, just barely in the profit zone. And then finally was that rug pull situation on ADTX where I lost more than double what I was expecting to risk. And that put me on a very negative note because I'll get to it later at the end of the video. But after my first 4 trades, I found myself in a spot where I was really deeply considering the long-term implications of whether or not I keep trading from that point. And I decided to take another trade. And I'm not sure even if I would have been happy with it, even if it closed green. So we'll get to that later. For now, we'll go through the charts and take a look at these a bit closer. So the day started pretty early on when I realized around like maybe 8:15 a.m. that this was probably going to be a high action day. I had seen BBIG on the 5-minute chart here. When you look at the pre-market, I mean that's such a clean run up, such a beautiful flag, and that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm looking for. And following this fade for the rest of the pre-market, and then all of a sudden, right before the bell, there's this huge volume spike that tells me chances are this is going to be like a 400% runner. And, it was already up maybe like 180, I think, at that point, or 200. But I still thought that there was potential for this thing to double. And so 2 things that I took away from that attitude was I need my share size to be small so that I'm comfortable being a little bit more active, being a little bit more like my big money self when I have a bigger account where I'm, taking a lot of scalps and being really active. I thought that's probably the approach that I have to take in order to be successful in this type of situation. And the other thing that I really was paying attention to is that I wanted to stay away from the open. I did not want to get chopped up. I can't help but notice that lately that there's a lot of pop and dropping in the open. There's a lot of 1-minute candles having a huge topping tail. And a prime example, once again, from today on CLSN, this is the first candle of the open. I'll zoom in a bit. This is the first candle. Look at that, long body, super huge volume, 3.6 million shares. Next candle keeps going up and was a long body, and then boom, huge reversal, and it didn't stop. It went all the way back down, and that was an absolute killer for the rest of the day. If I move the 5-minute chart over here, you'll see that the rest of the day was just a complete bummer. This was the open, and it went up to 280, and then it just killed it for the whole day. And so that's exactly the type of thing that I was trying to avoid coming in. And to my credit, I largely did that. If you look up on the 1-minute chart here, you'll see that the open was a bit sketchy. They broke a flat top here just a little bit and then flushed back down. And then even on this rip up, I was watching this the entire time. BBIG was my top watch by far. And I watched this go up, and I did not feel tempted whatsoever to get in because I just felt, no, this first move is not going to be good. It hasn't been valid a lot lately. There's been a lot of surprise sell-offs in the first move. And on top of that, on the 5-minute, I feel there's maybe just a bit too much green in a row and that we need a more substantial pullback before finally everybody jumps on that big bandwagon move. And so you can see I stayed inactive because all my entries and exits show up on the 1-minute chart. And you can see this right here is finally where I decided to get involved. I noticed the pullback coincided with this double bottom over here, which gave us a flat bottom, bit of support. And it almost coincided with the previous bottom over here. And I thought, okay, this is a pretty reasonable level for a volume reversal and a spike back up. And so I took an entry at 624 here for 100 shares. And my aim on this was very much to go up very high. I wanted the action to be clean. If it wasn't, I was okay with bailing out. But if it was, then I was looking to hold very far. I was looking for a multiple dollar move here. And I was trying to capture maybe 75 cents to $1.25 or something like that. Now, as it happened on the next couple candles there, we broke that 620 level, which is the spot that I was watching. And we did it very strongly. The volume reversal did take place, and I thought, okay, this is it. Here's the first long body. Here we go. But then it bounced off a seller at 640. There was a really big seller that came up on the ask, or at least relatively big, and kind of stalled the action. And you can see it came back down to around $6. And at this point, I was using either the previous 1-minute candles low or $6 as my stop, whichever one of those was lower. So in this case, at this point where we're lined up here, my stop would have been $6. And we flirted with it a bit on the next candle, and I was kind of getting like, I don't know if this is going to really be the spot. And then finally, we broke down below it. And what I failed to realize, what I failed to pay attention to because I was a bit too focused, was that there was an even bigger bid support level right down below at 590. And I just was focused on the break of $6. Once it didn't come back up above $6, I thought, okay, this is not just a quick little dip. It's gonna probably stay there. And the reason I thought that is because I missed that bid. Now, I did at least have the presence of mind to realize right away that was a mistake. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. And then sure enough, the price bounces exactly off 590 and then starts coming back up on that bottoming tail. And from there, what do you know? We get more volume and we get a green, green candle moving up to 650. And at that point, I was still very much focused on this trade. I liked the position that I was in. And I thought I should not have stopped out. And so the most logical thing for me to do, even though it looks like a revenge trade, it's actually not. I was very calm. My emotions were flat. I was very much just focused on the technicals. And so I just got right back in with 100 shares at 624. It's in fact the exact same entry that I took 6 minutes prior. So my plan on this trade was actually identical to what it was on my first trade. I was looking for the home run, and I was going to be quick to get out if I saw anything sketchy. And what I saw on the way up on this candle here was a little bit sketchy. And I thought that there was going to be a bounce off 590, which I happened to be exactly right about. And that's the thing that I thought was really good. I think I really correctly, very quickly analyzed the situation and made the right decision to get out, and then to possibly get back in later. So you can see I pretty much sold the top of this at whatever it was there, 687, getting filled for all of it, no hesitation. I got out right away. And as you can see, I was at least right in the short term in that it did come back down and it did bounce off that 690 spot again, which was proving to be trouble. Now, this is the point in the recap where I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember exactly what I was thinking, but I think that this move right here that I missed, I think this was the point where I started getting really off-put by the volume, where the volume was really starting to mess with me and I could not even read anything. And so I said to myself, even though, I had a plan initially, that entry at 620 was good. I don't have a plan anymore and I'm not set up and everything is happening too quickly. And I feel that this is too dangerous for me. I should not get involved. Now, I fast forwarded here to around what I was looking at there at the end of my last trade on BBIG, which was a very big loser where I lost more than $1 per share. Now, the trade we just talked about is way down here, and then the move I just missed and talked about was right here. And you can see another flag forms on the 1 minute, and I didn't jump on this. This is the point, by the way, where smoking definitely made me miss this, or sorry, not being able to smoke at my desk made me miss this. And so I missed this entire run up right here, which was the one that squeezed up to 9:15, which was about to get into a halt. When I came back to my desk, I found it about to be halted, and it broke out of that halt. And I was like, okay, cool, this could be really good if it comes back down and then curls. And so that's the entry that I was starting to plan, was that, okay, I'm going to take a curl entry off this top here at 9:15. And you can see I basically bought the top of this move, and it didn't resolve. There was a very harsh reversal right here, and that topping tail turned out to be the high of day. And even though I do think in retrospect that this was probably a little bit of a revenge trade, maybe a chasey entry, maybe an entry that was expecting a little bit too much, I was basing my trade idea on maybe too many factors, and I don't have the time in this recap to get through all of them, but I do think that this was a bit of an overreach in my opinion. The one saving grace that I do think I had in this trade was that I was very, very patient following this drop, because this drop was pretty crazy. And as you can see down here on the volume, I mean, we're talking about 4 million share volume bars in 1 minute. This is a very, very active tape. I can barely make out anything, and there's a lot of intensity involved in this trade. And one thing I normally do in those spots is I overreact. And in this case, I underreacted. And the reason I underreacted is because I planned for this in the way that I set up this trade. So you can see that my entry was only 50 shares instead of 100. That wasn't because the price had gotten too high. It was more because the setup was thinner, in that it's less likely to resolve, or if it's going to fail, it's going to fail more dramatically. And so once we passed my stop in this trade, which was initially just going to be the bottom of the last candle, like continuously trailing. Once we passed that stop, it happened in a way that I should have given it a second, and I did give it a second, and that second led to these 4 candles right here, where it looked like that drop might have been a temporary setback, and we might curl back up. And so I decided to use $8 as my eventual stop. I extended it a little bit. This is a case where I did exceed my stop, and then I set it somewhere else. So I did kind of like break a rule in a way, although I did approve of it. During the trade, I thought, no, this is logical based on, these factors, which again, I'm not going to get into. And so I'm pretty happy about the fact that I held this as long as I did. And to be honest, despite losing, $1 per share on a $9 stock, I did not feel very upset about this. Now, I've zoomed out of the chart to show you what happened after that, because what happened after that was, quite honestly, might be the actual most intense battle I've ever seen on a stock ever. It's at least the craziest that I have in recent memory, and I don't think this chart really does it any justice, because this consolidation period right here, this was just nonstop, almost get theirs, like almost go skyrocketing, and then just shut down by asks. And there was just orders popping up all over the place. I mean, there were times where we were on pace for doing like 50,000 shares per second of volume. And, that's really hard to follow. And so even though I was kind of bummed that maybe I jumped the gun on the stop and, I could have placed it elsewhere, or I should have put it higher and rebought earlier, I was having those thoughts. I was also very happy about the situation, how it was developing, how it was holding at a level that coincided with support on the daily chart, which was 780. And I thought, okay, this is a spot where the risk level is very clear. It's going to be the bottom of this move. And then I could get in right here and look for that high of day retest. And if it does retest that high day, this could be the home run that I was trying to find on this stock all day. Now, as it happened, there was a massive rug pull right here, which was just disgusting, and I did not get video of this one, but I remember thinking, I'm so happy that I didn't get in early, because throughout this chop, there was so many positive reactions. As you can see by these bottoming tails, every time the price came below $8, it was like traders collectively said, nope, you got to stay above $8. And it would immediately get popped right back up. And so I thought maybe I'm supposed to really reduce the risk here and buy right up against $8. And I did have a spot where I could have done that at 803. And I decided against it because I thought, no, I want to wait for the confirmation to make sure that nothing bad happens. I don't get shaken out of the trade by noise. And so I decided to wait. And, as you can see, I got rewarded with this huge rug pull situation that I missed. But before that massive war on BBIG, I got involved in a trade on ATTX, which had started to really clean up its moves, in my opinion. You can see this chart back here. Yeah, it is moving up, but on a 1 minute time frame, it is pretty choppy, and I wasn't super happy with it. I prefer long bodies and sideways consolidation rather than downward, at least on the 1 minute chart. And so I saw this 3-bar setup right here with an obvious entry point at 550. And following a big red candle, there came a big green candle. And during that rise up, I hesitated multiple times from around 525 to 550. I did not buy. I wanted the confirmation, and it kept showing up. Every time the price would move up, bids would come under and support it. And this trade, this is one that I absolutely nailed the timing of. This was very much me at my A game in terms of timing. I don't have video of it, so I can't confirm, but I'm pretty sure my reaction time was next level on this one. And I picked up perhaps the last couple hundred shares at 549. As soon as I got in this trade, the first number that I registered on the ask side was 565. So I got a jump of 15 cents almost immediately. And you can see with my entry right here, the resolution just kept getting better. I mean, I got a volume increase right away, follow-up, move coming through. And I thought, okay, this is the one where I'm going to load up. And there was a bit of a dip here down into the 560s at one point, but I was okay with that. I was holding at that point, I moved my stop up to break even, so my stop was 550. So that was perfectly fine. I held through that. And during the next rip, where the volume really exploded, that's when I took my first sell. I took a bit of profit off at 631. It was an insurance sell just in case the move didn't work out. And also a sell that I took because the pop from 6 to 630 was very quick. It was almost as soon as 6 broke, we were up at 630. And so I thought that move was a little bit too quick. There's bound to be a snapback. And so I'd rather get filled up in the 630s and then let the snapback happen and then see if it continues upward. Now, as it turns out, the snapback didn't happen until, I guess, 673 was the top. And for the record, I did try to sell right below 670. There was a refreshing order on the ask that kept showing up. It kept getting cleared out and then kept showing up. And it all happened very quickly, and I didn't like it. And so I decided, nope, let's just get rid of the rest. And so I hit Control C to try and sell the rest of my position on the ask minus 2 cents. But the price came back down too quickly, and so I got filled 0 shares on that order. And from coming back down from that level, I decided once again to hold. Now, this situation looks similar to the last trade I just described on BBIG, where I let the trade come back down willingly and then tried to get it to curl and gave it the time to do so. Now, the key difference between the last situation and this situation is that, number one, my stop is break even. So no matter what happens on this second half, I'm going to be okay. And the second thing that's really important is that if we do get that squeeze back up, I'm going to be much more comfortable in adding to this trade than if I sold the top and then repurchased down here. And this is a really important thing that I know about myself from studying myself and from taking notes. It's just something that I know about myself, that it's better to hold that second half so that when I add to the trade later, my average is going to be lower, and that's going to be putting me in a mentally safer place. It's going to put me in more green going into whatever move that I'm looking for next, and it's going to remove all of my fears about turning a green trade red. And so that's mainly what made me hold this, even though the price action at this point had deteriorated. around here, it was looking kind of dodgy. And I wasn't really sure if I should hold all the way down to my stop, or should I take like a close to $6 exit and just take maybe 30 cents on the rest, or should I hold it? And I decided to hold it, and the result of that ended up being that I stopped out close to my entry. So by this point in the day, when I had these trades right here done, and I found myself sitting there with a P&L on the day of like $17 or $18 or something like that. And I was thinking to myself, I was very much aware of the long-term implications of the spot that I was in. And what I meant by that goes back to my daily results, which I'll open right here. Because I know myself very well, and I know that if I had finished with a small green day here, and if I'd followed it up with either a no trades day or another green day on Friday, that would have given me a week full of green. And even though the numbers are small, I know from history there's the clearest pattern ever that following a losing streak, when I get a situation like that, when I just have consistent green, it gives me the confidence back. Because something about me is with trading, for some reason, my confidence really swings a lot based on my results. And so it's important for me to book green in times like this in order to be able to get more aggressive on the action once it shows up. And so by that point, I was really leaning towards I should just close right now. And I was looking at my trades and kind of thinking about the way I traded. And I was like, there is, a few good things, a few bad things, but I feel like the bulk of the moves are finished for what I was looking for today. And, it was around like 10:30 or something like that. And I thought, it's probably time to pack it up. And then that's when I found what we're looking at right now on my screen, which is ADTX once again. So coming off that big move up to 673, it had pulled back. And I feel like this is the best setup that I found probably all day, because it was a 5-minute setup. And the volume profile on this, this doesn't happen every day, where it's just descending so cleanly and like the ratio between the bars is so smooth. And, the candles as well, they line up so well to make it suggest that we're probably retesting high of day at least. And that even if we get there, I was looking at the halt levels, and they weren't that much higher. It was like 715 or something at that point. And so it wouldn't have taken a whole lot that in order to get it up to that level. And so once I saw on the 1-minute chart the volume was starting to ramp up a little bit, that's when I took my first entry right above 550. So you can see there that I waited for the seller at 560 to break, which was the biggest thing I could see. And once it did break, I took it and I got filled at 65, which I wasn't super stoked about, but it shouldn't have made a big deal if I got the resolution that I wanted. And as you can see by the tape in the level 2, there was a lot of trouble early on. There was a little war that happened between about 540 and about 570. And even though the volume was increasing and the pattern still looked good on the chart, I wasn't really liking at this point what I saw on the tape. There was all kinds of bid support that kept showing up, and then it would cut through it despite the fact that there was people scooping up the ask all the time. But then from there, we got to bounce up. And there was a point where a seller came up for about 70,000 shares. And it occurred to me I should probably hit the bid right away and just get out of this trade, because I don't really think based on the action right now that it's going to break, and I should just reevaluate and maybe re-enter later. And what I decided to do was I'll give it one bounce, because I figured it's going to come back off of that level and then we're going to test it again. And when we came back up, it did actually break that 560 level. And so that's what gave me hope for the rest of the trade. Is I was like, okay, we're cutting through these sellers. Maybe I should give this more credit than I previously did. And there was another one at 570, and it cut through that one too. And 575, same thing, and it kept going up. And then even though it was coming back down, it would keep washing out the asks. And so I figured like I should probably give this some time. And long story short, I think I probably gave it a little bit too much time, and I let it fail below 550 too many times. And I think I should have really taken that as a sign to get out, and I did not. And as a result, I surpassed my stop, because once it broke through 540, it did so pretty quickly down to 525. And I thought, well, there's bid support down there. Let me just give it a second and see if I can get a better fill, because I was already planning on exiting at that point. And in giving it a second, I opened myself up to, wait a little bit too long. And waiting too long led to this rug pull right here. I've estimated that it was about 0.45 seconds from 520 to 481. That's how much time it took to flush down. And within that time, there was also asks that came up at 494 for about 35,000 shares, which certainly accelerated any algorithmic trades out there, I would assume. And so we got that quick flush, and all of a sudden I found myself with a bid of 481 when my original stop was supposed to be 540. And it's at this point once again that I said, okay, well, I can't sell at this moment. I have to at least wait for a little snap, and that's what I did. And there was a seller at 494, and I ended up getting out very shortly after that failed to get taken out with any kind of curiosity. So I ended up bailing out there at 497, and that was the end of that one. So now I know this runtime's getting a bit long here, but the most important part of this video is right now, because this is where I take a look at what I think I did right, what I think I did wrong, and how I'm supposed to react, and the long-term, spot that I'm in. Because you as a viewer, you definitely don't get the whole picture right now. We're on day 5, and if you're just joining me right now for this account, then you're not familiar with the rest of my history, which really is important in this case, because this is, to me, a pivotal moment. I had spots like this in all 3 accounts that I had in 2020, and in 2 of them they were very similar, and in one of those 2 I blew up the account, which, even though it's not likely to happen here like that, is relevant. And in the other one I ran it up huge and closed a big winner. And I think the moment where I really reacted differently in the time that I lost, where I blew up the account, that time is when I got really aggressive in a spot like this. I would kind of let it snowball and get out of control and not realize the good things that I was doing enough. And so for me right now, the way that I'm seeing this day is that my execution was very weak. I feel like my ideas were very much on point, and that I did get in the right spots, and I had the right long-term ideas for bigger moves, but that my execution kind of made me go off course, and I got sidetracked and focused on some of the wrong things in certain spots. And of course, my mistakes did cost me the maximum, and that's something I'm looking at as a positive as well, is that it would have only taken any one of those mistakes to not happen, and then I'm closing with a much different result. And if I were to, go into other alternate histories where I could have not made several mistakes, well, then we're talking about a very different result. And I feel like I shouldn't overlook that fact. I really shouldn't be too hard on myself, I think, for the mistakes I made, because if I repeatedly have those types of ideas, I am going to execute well. And I'll switch over to my trade log to point out what I mean here. This trade right here is the one that I'm really thinking the most about, because this is one that you haven't seen so far, but you will see in the future that this is exactly what it looks like when I hit a home run. This is the start of a home run. And if things have gone differently with this trade, I would have been able to sell that first piece at, I think it was 631. And then once that curl happens, if it did happen, I would have been adding very aggressively. And those add-ons are what would have given me the home run. So eventually, once, it probably won't happen before I get a good profit cushion on this account. But once you see me book a really big trade, you're going to see that pattern. Almost certainly you're going to see that pattern, is that the first trade is going to be a little bit of a scalp, just booking a small amount, getting out, booking some profit, and then using that profit to be confident about taking a bigger risk. And then once that second risk is in the green, that's when I'm hitting the buy button, going into halts, and getting these massive gaps of like 75 cents. That's the time when I'm going to get there. But in order to get there, I have to be a little bit safe. And that's why I thought after that fourth trade that maybe I should just close this day and just get that green result, because I know myself, and I know from tracking my results that it's a really big difference maker just getting that little green streak just to give me the confidence. So to put a final note on it, I have to say that I'm very happy with the changes that I made actually today, and I'm looking to continue them. I'm definitely looking to avoid too much action early on in the day. I was really happy about that today when I avoided the crazy volume, when we were doing just insane volume and the tape was unreadable. I didn't feel comfortable with that, and even though the move worked out, I was happy that I missed it. I think more than anything, I'm really happy that I realized today, I just remembered and reminded myself that The success that I have with larger accounts when I'm more comfortable, that comes from not marginalizing myself, and in that I'm not using margin, and taking smaller positions vis-a-vis my account size. Is because when I take positions that are, let's say, my entry is my account balance, then my ability to add to that trade and have a big winner is going to be limited, whereas my ability to lose is going to be almost maxed out at the non-margin level. And I find that lately I've been losing sight of that. I've been forgetting the ratio of my account size to my trade size, my starting entry position is a lot lower, and that leads to more success. And I forget it because in previous accounts I've been very aggressive, and my first trade in my account has been 3 times the account value, and I've gotten away with that, and I've also not gotten away with that. So I want to avoid any of the situations that lead me towards danger, and so I feel like I did that today. And I think being able to take big losers and not have them impact my net P&L that badly, I think that really does show it. But in any case, that's going to be a wrap. This is a pretty long video. I hope you got something out of this, because I certainly did. And I do these once in a while, go a little bit longer. Usually it's on a red day, because I find those are the most educational for the viewer. So I really hope you like this video. And I certainly hope my next result is not going to be on the same side of this sheet as this one is.